So let's start this hour with my difficult conversation. Now, last week, divorce applications rose by nearly 50% in the UK, and it follows the introduction of the no-fault divorce law. The legislation moves the requirement for one partner to blame the other for the breakdown of their marriage. And it's faced some criticism from people who say that the policy would cause fighting couples to turn to divorce as an immediate solution, rather than actually trying to work out their problems amicably. But others say it will help to keep families together or stop damaging and nasty relationship breakups. So I'm joined in the studio by Sara Davison, who is a divorce coach, and she turned to supporting others after a lengthy breakdown of her marriage over a 2-year period. So, Sara, welcome. Thank you very much. Everyone's in pink today. Everyone is. I'm in pink. The music's in pink. Mine's in pink. You're in pink. We're brilliant pink. Anyway, so let's talk about you. Let's talk about your divorce then, because your experience inspired you to become somebody who inspires others. So talk to me about your relationship and whatever you can tell us about it.
Yeah, well, I've been coaching about 15 years when I was married. I've been married only for about 2 years. We've been together probably about 5. And I found out overnight that my husband no longer wanted to be married to me. So overnight, I became a single mum.
Or did he just tell you that? You just said, I don't want to marry you?
I found out. I found an email, and then everything became apparent.
Well, so he emailed somebody else, and what?
I found an email that basically informed me that my husband had met somebody else.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that really it hit me like a freight train.
Did somebody send you that email, or you just going through the computer and saying, hang on a minute, what's this about?
No, we worked together. We worked together. We had a global business together. So we shared email accounts for business, and somebody they'd met had messaged in, and I was picking up emails. I was back in the London office then. So, yeah, and it hit me like a freight train because I hadn't seen it coming. Really? And overnight I became a single mum. Our son was only 1 at the time. And it broke my heart. I lost my husband, who I thought was my best friend. And, you know, I was devastated.
Literally out of the blue. You had no idea at all.
Absolutely.
And that happened.
I mean, our relationship hadn't been perfect.
Right.
But what relationship is perfect? You know, we got on well, we worked together, we had the same passions, we were running a global business together. So, yeah, I was super happy. There were challenges, but, you know, nothing we couldn't overcome in my mind. So, yeah, I was
Do you know if he's still with this person?
Oh, we're now very friendly. We get on well.
So you're friends with the person he was with?
With my ex-husband. I'm also friendly with her too. He went on and had 2 children. They moved on very quickly, started a family within a couple of months of our separation.
God, that's painful, isn't it? That must be very difficult for you.
And I think when you've gone through that, and I definitely did all the ugly crying on the bathroom floor and just being genuinely terrified of what the future was going to hold, because my life, you know, working together is suddenly everything was up in the air, and going through the divorce process was extremely intimidating. You know, I was worried I'd cope as a single mum. My confidence was very low because the new girlfriend was very beautiful. She was also 12 years younger.
Has she put on weight now, though? God, she's horrible now.
She's still beautiful, unfortunately for me. But yeah, no, we're friendly now, and I think, you know, it's taken a long time. We're talking 12 years to, you know, and it's a journey. But because I've been coaching beforehand, I knew how to control my emotional state to some degree, but I was so flawed. I was thinking, gosh, if I'm struggling and I'm trained in this, how does everybody else cope? So I really spent a long time researching and trying to find ways to help me to get through it. And in the end, I just decided to combine my coaching skills with the divorce process just to help me cope. And then that's now what I share with other people to help them.
So at the time that you were divorced, you obviously have to find fault, and there was fault on this case.
Yes.
So that makes it not easier, but there is a reason why that you're actually leaving this person. So with this new clause that's coming out now that says that there's no fault, do you share the concern to some people who would say, well, actually, it might make it easier for couples to split up because they don't need to find fault?
I think it's quite patronising to control people to stay married if they don't want to be. You know, I think we should all be empowered to make our own decisions. No one vets us before we get married to see if we're reasonable enough to get into it. So why, when we're trying to get out? I don't think it makes it easier. I mean, divorce is known as the second most traumatic life experience we go through after death of a loved one anyway. And most people have spent a lot of time and effort thinking about the divorce. They don't suddenly, put in their application. It's something they've spent a long time, months, sometimes years considering. So it's definitely...
But for you didn't really have that time because there was definitely fault involved.
Yes. But again, putting the fault in may make you feel better when you list it out. But the divorce lawyers will strip a lot of that emotion out. It's irrelevant to the actual divorce process. And I think a lot of my clients now are upset by that because they're saying, well, it should be taken into consideration, but it isn't.
Well, that's the thing, is that others might think, well, I deserve more because they've done this, that and the other. So taking it away now means that I won't be able to make the same sort of claims. Is that true as well?
Yeah, I think a lot of people find it quite therapeutic to vent so that their ex will see their concerns and they're upset. But it doesn't make a difference to the legal process.
So and the settlement at the end, it makes no difference.
No, but it can make it a lot more acrimonious because you're starting off blaming, which, if it was an amicable split, it fizzled out, you've still got to find that fault.
Yeah.
You can't put we grew apart. There was no box to tick for we're better off as friends.
Or we still like each other. Well, I'm going to blame you. Let's decide who blames who, and then even though you're still friends, because that is possible.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm friends with all my exes. Never married any of them, though. Not that silly.
I love it.
No, they're lovely. I mean, they're lovely people. I'm good friends with them. But, I'm pretty glad I never married anyone. Actually, the truth is nobody wants me. But OK, so let's take it back. If somebody feels they want to get divorced then, because I thought you had to stay with somebody for a certain amount of time before you could. What is the process?
So obviously I'm not a lawyer, but the process now is you can either file together for divorce or separately. Right. So you could never do it together as a joint application before. So now you don't have to put the blame, so you can just go ahead and just say this is what we want. Yeah, so it makes it a lot more amicable. Or, amicable might be pushing it for some people. So divorcing with dignity is a good way of looking at it because you're not going at each other from the beginning. So it gives that, Gwyneth brought us conscious uncoupling. It makes that a lot more possible.
She also brought us the candle. I don't want to talk about that.
Let's not go there.
Yeah. So, OK, so let's visualise it. So in your situation, you were dumbfounded with this. So you suddenly found yourself in the whole process of going through the divorce procedure. If there are others going through that, because it's not easier if you agree, but it feels calmer if you do agree and you don't have to go through a fight. But for you, it must have been quite traumatic. And there will be others going through a similar situation, even though there's no fault. So they'll actually not have that kind of venting feeling that you get when you think, well, it's your fault, blah, 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 blah. So what advice would you give to somebody who's maybe in your position, but obviously now with this no fault scenario?
I think, first of all, it's important to know you will get through this, because when you're down there on the bathroom floor doing that ugly crying I talked about, sometimes you think there is no future, there's no light at the end of the tunnel. So just having the hope that you will get through it. And also, you're not alone. This is something that happens to so many people. So there are communities, there are things you can do to help you speed up that process and get the advice you need to cope better. Yeah.
So for you, what was your process then? Because you said you're a trainer, you train people. What was your psychological, mental sort of process to get yourself through it?
Well, a couple of things I found really helpful. Number one, having a breakup support team around you who you can rely on and get the answers you need. So. Yeah. That's friends not the friends, though, that come over and chop up the clothes and drink a bottle of wine with you and, put their clothes in bin bags. Probably not those friends.
I don't have any friends like that, actually, to be honest with you. Do you mean they're not the non-judgmental ones that when you tell them things they go, or the ones who seem to have such a lovely, happy life and sort of rub the salt into your wounds a little bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's important that it's someone that can give you constructive advice that isn't going to lead to negative repercussions. So that would be important. But then also, I think if you're heartbroken, and I know a lot of people watching will be, and that's something that's very hard to take control of, but you can dial down those negative emotions by focusing your mind on the things that weren't right. Because our brain tricks us into romanticising about all the things we might be missing out on or that we're upset about. But actually, if we focus on the things that used to annoy us or irritate us, that's a good way of taking your power back and starting to put yourself back on that healing journey. Yes, and of course, we have those rose-tinted spectacles that you need to sort of take off so you can see the reality of the situation. Of course, yeah. That's not the best, is it? No, taking the rose-tinted glass off is a must. And also stop using their name as well, because a name has a lot of negative, it can trigger a lot of emotion, a lot of negative emotions. So one of the things we want to do, and I suggest to my clients, is don't use their name. Use their first initial, but not a capital initial. So say it was Robert or Rachel. Instead of using the capital R, just a teeny weeny little r, whether you're talking or typing or even your lawyers, get them to use that, because it will really take down some of that intensity.
So instead of Robert with a capital R, Robert with a small r.
Just R. Just forget the name, just R, yeah.
Yeah. Well, listen, you know, and so really, so if you had one sort of word of advice, one pearl of wisdom that you've taken away that kind of keeps going in your brain to make you feel okay after what you've been through, what would that be?
Great question. I think it would be, it's not what happens to you in life that defines you, it's what you do about it that makes you the person you are. And you can turn that pain into your power, like I have, and help other people and go on to be happier.
Yeah, go on to be happy. And are you married again?
I'm not married, but I am happily single.
Will you ever get married?
I would.
Really?
I would, yeah, absolutely.
I was expecting a solid no.